What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Real Estate Unlimited, where we're going to give you an amazing guest today, Jonathon Martin from Texas. He's going to be explaining to us how Texas works, how the market works in Texas, but first, we're going to have the countdown. And welcome back, everyone. And I have with us today Jonathon Martin. Jonathon, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Fantastic. And Jonathon is from Tyler, Texas, or he's working out of Tyler, Texas. Let's get a little bit more information about you, Jonathon. Where are you from, and how long have you been in real estate?
Well, I've always lived in Texas, kind of lived in different parts of the state. Been in Tyler for 25 years. It's kind of amazing to me to say that. I can't believe it's been that long. But love it here. It's beautiful. And especially this time of year, everything is kind of turned green and is blooming. How long have I been in real estate? So I got interested in real estate when my wife got her license. She's in her 9th year. And I wasn't really ready to join her in that right then. But 4 years ago, I started helping her with transaction management and marketing and accounting and kind of business structure. My background has been in business management. And and then got my license. And once I became licensed, it was definitely it was a huge change, because then it was like having a hunting license. I could go out and bring something home instead of just being the support person in the background. So that was awesome.
Jameson's saying he sees us. We see you too, Jameson. Keep it real out there in Tennessee. Keep that whiskey rolling, brother. Oh man. And so talk about living in the parts of Texas where you can go out and hunt and come back and bring something home. Do you have any hobbies that you like to do?
Yeah, I don't really have time for hobbies right now. But I feel like if we have a weekend where I have time to go to the store and buy some food and cook it at home, just maybe one night or even just one night a week, then I feel like that's living my fantasy life, to be able to squeeze some time to do something like that. What I would like to do, I'd like to kind of structure things to where I could do the things I used to do more of, which was getting out in the outdoors, hiking. I like to mountaineer, like backpacking kind of stuff, and have done a little hunting. I'm not like a dyed-in-the-wool hunter, but it is something I enjoy.
Yeah. We just had Greek Easter, those listening, and so I dressed lambs last week, and I told you that, and you didn't take any offense to it. So I was like, this guy's got to know about the outdoors.
Yeah. When you said dressed lambs, when you're going to dress lambs, I knew what you meant, but it just put a really funny image in my mind.
As for most people. And of those of you who don't know what dressing lambs is, you need to look it up. But it's the process before the lamb goes on your plate. 2 processes before the cooking. So,
awesome. Tell me, what was that about? Why were you dressing lambs?
Yeah, so as many of you guys know, I'm Greek American, and we eat lamb for Pascha, or our Passover, which is our Easter. And a lot of times, and any of you out there, if you have any Greek friends or Orthodox friends, we're on the lunar calendar, so it's usually about a week after the American Western Easter. Sometimes it falls on the same day. Sometimes it's a month apart. And so, but it's as Greek, the saying is a lamb's worst enemy is a wolf, but it's actually a Greek around Easter time. I think that's hilarious. All right. But anyway, Jonathon, so you have been in real estate for how many years now?
I'm in my 4th year.
Your 4th year. Okay, cool. And can you explain to me a little bit? And all you North Carolinians listening out there, this is really interesting because we're both real estate. We're both real estate agents. We can send each other referrals. How is it in Texas? Do you go to real estate school, then you get licensed as a real estate agent? Are you a broker? Or is there a division? How does that work?
Well, I think that the way the real estate laws are written in each state, it's basically what lawyers sitting down with real estate agents or brokers that kind of establish that structure. And for whatever reason in Texas, the way that you become an agent is it's a two-step process. The first step is you take 180 class hours of real estate classes. So it's 6 30-hour courses, and then you sit for an exam. And the exam is really difficult. I'm sure probably it is in North Carolina too.
How many hours? How many hours did it take? Yeah, how many hours they give you?
The exam didn't take very long to take. There weren't that many questions. They were just super tricky. Like it's hard to pass, and they don't tell you what your score is. It's either you passed or you didn't.
Really?
Yeah. I think they allowed 60 or 70 minutes for the exam. I don't remember now, but the 180 class hours also isn't that difficult to do, but they have a proctored exam at the end of each one of those. So you got to get over that hurdle too.
Yeah, you have to pass those small exams before you can to go big.
Right. And
Jonathan, there's a proctor.
Yeah. So it's a real exam,
John, here you take the class, they give you exams, but it doesn't count for you or against you. It's actually study material. And then it's a 4-hour exam, 4 hours, and you really need 6 to pass it. And it's probably the same, I'm assuming. 2 wrong questions, you're going to pick them off the bat. 2 right questions, you have to pick the best answer out of the other one.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember just thinking, this is like, again, the tests are like written by lawyers. They're not written by realtors. They're just written to trick you up. It's basically just to see, are you a person who pays attention to details? Is really kind of what it's all about. And you learn a little bit about some theory of real estate. So once you have achieved that, a license as a sales associate, you can go and do the things you couldn't do before. Like we can write a contract, we can open a door, we can like you cannot answer a real estate related question at a brokerage unless you're licensed to do it. So like at our broker's office, we have a receptionist, and she really can't say anything about any homes people call about. She can only refer them to an agent in the office. It's very restricted.
Okay, so you passed the real estate exam. What are you considered then?
Then you're considered an agent.
An agent.
Right.
A real estate agent.
Right.
You're not considered a broker at that time.
You're not considered a broker, and you're still required to take you've gotten 180 class hours. You have to take another 138 class hours in the next 2 years in order to keep your license.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's something to me, that's kind of a high bar, because when you're new in the business, you want to get out there and work. And once you get busy, it's hard to find time to do another 100. And it's 4 more classes plus some additional stuff. So anyway, I barely got it done in time to keep my license because I was so busy helping Dee, my wife, who is our team leader.
I got a question in for you. So Jameson says, wait, how much over the next 2 years?
Yeah. So the first, in order to get your license, it's 180 hours. And then in the next 2 years, you have to get another 120 hours. So a total of 300 hours. Plus 18. Years. They added another 18 more hours in as additional stuff to do.
Okay. Forgive me. That's within 2 years.
Within 2 years. And you're still not considered a broker. You just got to remain an agent.
Okay. And to get your broker's license, I put this on Do Not Disturb. To get your broker's license, what do you need to do?
So like when you're called a broker in Texas, I think it's equivalent to being a BIC in North Carolina.
Okay. Is one main broker per the office?
Right. You can be an associate broker if you have your broker's license and you have a broker who's over you, because each office can only have one actual broker in charge. So, but in order to get that, you would need to do 600 additional hours of classes.
600?
Right. You need 900 hours total to become a broker. And 4 hours of active, like having success, like you've got closings and you've gotten listings. At least they have this point system. So over the 4 years, you have to have achieved a certain number of points.
I see.
And it's not that hard to get the points, really, if you're
if you're producing right.
Right. Now there is. So yeah, Jameson's got a question. 16 hours over 2 years. Is that in Nashville, I wonder, or in?
Affiliate are only required 16 hours every 2 years. Okay, affiliates are only required 16 hours in every 2 years, and yeah, that's probably Jameson. That's out where you live, Tennessee. He says in the answer right now, Tennessee. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, in North Carolina, it's 90 hours.
There is there's one thing exception though. If you have a 4-year degree, then that counts 600 hours towards your broker's license.
Oh, a 4-year degree will automatically give you 600 hours.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. I can see that. Wow. And so right now, are you an agent or a broker?
I'm an agent. Yeah, I haven't completed the 4 years yet.
Gotcha.
To be even eligible. Oh, and so then, yeah, once you get it to that point, you do have to take that test again, and you have to pass it at a higher percentage. So I think you have to get a 70 in order to get your sales associate's license, but to get your broker's license, I think it's a 75.
Okay.
So it's still achievable,
Gotcha. I mean, obviously, you guys are crushing it, so you guys are doing it right. So you're a team with your wife, and you have associates under you?
We do. We have 3 agents that are working for us full time, and one of them is kind of newer in the business. She's been an agent for a little over 2 years, like me. And then we have 2 agents that are almost brand new, and it's really fun to see them succeeding. It's just been. This has been one of the parts of the job that's been the most fulfilling, is to be like, okay, we're trying to create this system to where people, can join us and be a part of it, and to where we help them with leads and give them advice in converting and give them advice with their lead flow and all that, and be supportive and answer questions, review contracts. And then when they actually get a deal under contract and when they actually get that check, for their first closing, and like one of the agents in particular, she had gone to another brokerage, and she'd been with them for 2 or 3 months, and she'd taken all their training courses and all that, and she hadn't had any closings. I don't know. She just didn't have the support there that she needed. And so she came and talked to us, and we had her, I think within 6 weeks she had somebody under contract.
Beast.
Yeah.
Beast.
And she's great. But so we got the sales team, and Dee really kind of leads the sales team. She's provides leadership there, and she's also our top performer on our sales team. I sell some, and then we have an admin team that we have 2 people supporting us in our administration. One focuses more on the transactions, keeping them moving. Mm-hmm. And then we have an administrative assistant who's she does everything that we need her to. She's great.
Awesome. So Patty Gordon, and I know Patty, we work together. She's like, dang, sounds like if I go to Texas, I may have to be a referral agent for a while. Patty, that makes both of us, to be honest with you. Oh, God bless. And I think it might, and I'm not going to say it's easy. It's extremely hard in North Carolina. But there's a lot of loopholes to jump through in Texas. I mean, there's a lot you've got to do to be a broker in Texas.
Well, okay, this is one thing, Paul, I wanted to ask you, because my friend who lives in North Carolina, he recently got his license, he was saying that like in Texas, we have a lot of boxes to check on our contracts, and we have addendums to add. And he was saying and we don't have lawyers involved in our closings unless the client requests, that their lawyer's involved to review it. I think it's different in North Carolina, right? Lawyers
Yeah.
are involved.
Yes. In North Carolina, you have to have a closing attorney to sell a piece of property for protection. Yeah. Regardless, it's not a question. Yeah. I know Ohio, you don't have to. That was one of the questions too. So Texas, you do not need an attorney to close.
Okay. Like attorneys are going to, almost all closings happen at title companies. And so there's going to be an attorney there who is going to review the title documents. But they don't represent a side. They're just a neutral third party.
Okay. And they review the documents and do the closing.
Yeah, they have the authority over the closing. The person who actually does the closing is the closer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in North Carolina, this is why it's important, those of you listening, for your sellers to get a closing. I recommend you can easily use the same attorney to close. And a lot of times people do that just to make it convenient. However, in North Carolina, the closing attorney works for the buyer's best interest. So if there's some loopholes or there's some issues that you feel that your seller may have, or it can cause some I'd say hiccups, maybe some, it's not going to be a smooth process. I always tell my people, I recommend using someone different to do your closing docs and then get them to the closing attorney who's going to close. Because when you go to the same attorney, they work in the buyer's best interest. Patty's like, interesting. Okay. And those of you who are just turning in and listening, if you haven't subscribed to Real Estate Unlimited, this podcast is on all platforms. Please go ahead and do. It's on my Facebook. It's on my YouTube, of course, but it has its own. I have it up on the podcast. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's on Stitcher. It's on all of them. So just take a time and subscribe. This podcast is made for content like this to help people learn and understand real estate at a better and a different perspective. So when someone goes, Jonathan, to, let's say they're writing a contract. In North Carolina, we have two types of monies. We have due diligence and we have earnest money. Earnest money gets delivered to the closing attorney in a trust account. Due diligence goes to the seller. It's his money until he keeps it if you break contract anytime. And if you go to the closing, though, it gets returned to you off the purchase price. Okay, and so does the earnest money. Now you got a due diligence period where you do your inspections. You break in that period, you get your earnest money returned. I know this is a lot of information, you guys listening, but the risk that the buyer takes, the biggest risk is due diligence. In this market, it has been as high as $50,000 people have put up to buy a house, because that's going straight in the seller's pocket. And knock on wood, people need to buy cars and they lose their loan. People have family emergencies and they lose their loan. And the seller has the right to keep all that. Now, whether they're ethical or not, where they want to give it, being more ethical, actually, because technically they can keep it all. Do you have the same situation in Texas?
Yeah, well, now I hope that nobody in Texas is listening.
I was hoping you were going to share this. You got to share this.
No, I think that the earnest money fees in Texas, at least in our area, are incredibly low for what you're getting. They're just like super, super low. So I had a listing that went under contract a couple of days ago. I got 19 offers on it. The highest, earnest money is typically 1%. Earnest money is, it's put up to the title company. It sits there in escrow and it goes towards the closing. Unless the buyer terminates during their option period. They call it an option period instead of a due diligence period. Okay. If they terminate during the option period, they're entitled to get their earnest money back. The seller actually has to sign off on it to release the title company from any liability. And that's usually not a problem. But option fees in Texas, at least on all the contracts I receive, I think the highest one was $250.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the option fee is what goes to the seller's pocket. Is that our due diligence?
Yes. The option fee. One thing I'm super thankful about is that about a year and a half ago, the Texas legislature or the Board of Realtors, they changed it so that now the option fee is delivered to the title company along with the earnest money. It's such a great, we used to have to take the option fee to the listing agent and hand it to them and have them receipt it to us,
We,
because if it wasn't receipted within 3 days of the signing of the contract, then the option period didn't exist and you were locked in. And sometimes that listing agent would be hard to get a hold of. And if
yeah.
they, and it's like, hey, we got 3 days to connect, and they wouldn't answer the phone, or they would be hard to get to. And it's like, anyway, they simplified it, and they said all we have to do is get the money to the title company, and then the seller can go up there and get it. They can go get the money from the title company. So I can't tell you how many hours it saved us. It's awesome. But
These Slack listing agents, I'm going to tell you right now, I get see them. We have 1 day to deliver due diligence. It was 3. 1 day has to be delivered. However, if the listing agent cannot sign, you can't get a hold of them, you can take it to their office, and the office, someone in the office who's licensed can sign for.
mm-hmm.
And then, and you're covered, or the contract's off. So we have 1 day to get. It used to be 3 days, and then it was 5 days for our earnest money. I think earnest money still is 5 days. I want to check on that, but the due diligence is now only 1 day, and they do have to sign off.
So if they don't sign off, then it's automatically terminated. Yeah, no, it was the opposite in Texas. If they didn't get it there, then you just didn't get an option period, and you're automatically locked in. You have to buy it without a contingency period. Yeah. So anyway, I'm really glad that changed. I mean, you still have to get it there in 3 days, but I think that what was going on was there were listing agents that were purposely being impossible to reach, so that they would be able to outmaneuver the buyer's agent to where they wouldn't be able to get an option period.
Oh, come on, dude. Come on, dude. Yeah, that's not too cool. I really think they should do some type of limit for the due diligence, because it's ridiculously high. I mean, average here is $5,000 to $7,000 is the average they need to put up that I've seen. There's no number, right? And if you guys see something else or want to disagree, go ahead. Please feel free to comment on the post. But I tell my buyers, you got 7,000 plus. All right, let's move forward. What do you have? We do what you have, right? Because I believe that anything's possible when it comes to buying a house. It's like it's everything's negotiable. It's real estate.
Mm-hmm.
However, I'm seeing strong offers when are being won with stronger due diligence, and because things do happen, and sellers know that if it does go off the market, we just made a chunk of money, and then we'll just put it back on the market. Someone will buy it. The market's extremely hot, and we'll just make more money.
So there's really not any like negotiating over repairs, I guess, unless it's a serious repair, right? Because the buyer doesn't want to walk away from that huge due diligence they put down.
Yeah. So if it's something pretty serious, and again, it's up to the buyers, but if it's something up pretty serious, they usually will do that, but we let a lot of times I'll just say I can fix that, or we still do our inspections to see how bad it is. Yes. And a lot of times sellers are saying it's as is. I'm not making any repairs. Just to let you know.
You're just lucky to get a house.
Yeah. Yeah. And, but, a good agent like myself and like you, we would see what we could do to work with our other agents to get this thing, it's logical, right? So they're raising interest rates, hoping to slow down the market. I don't know if that's going to work or not. What I feel that needs to be done is that sellers need to list upon contingency. That way, when they find a property to buy, they'll sell their property. Their property's on the market. They make it clear to the agent to let everyone know we're listing on contingency. So when we have to sell to buy, and then there's that waiting period. They're not closing in 30 days. You're closing longer, but it'll bring more comfort because the other person can put their house on the market. I really think that's going to help the market move smoother. That's my personal opinion. I don't know how you feel about that, John, but that's just my personal opinion. Any comments on that?
Well, I mean, I think that I've seen over and over again recently where there's sellers who are handling things one of two ways in order to be able to make the move when they have to sell. One of them is to just tell their listing agent that they need to be able to lease their house back for 30 or 45 days after closing. And it's great when I've got a buyer like that who comes and they're coming from out of town and they say, yeah, I've got my house sold, so I don't have to worry about a contingency. It's closing in just a few days, or it's already closed. I'm like, okay, well, where are you living now? And they say, well, we're still living in the house because we took advantage of it being such a hot market, and we negotiated to make sure we could just stay in our house until we found another one. The other thing I've seen people do is go ahead and sell their house and secure temporary housing here in Tyler or in the area. I've got buyers right now that have been in an Airbnb for about 2 months. They just leased it on a week-to-week basis, and they found a place that they could afford that into their budget. So they were able to shop freely, and not feel like this incredible pressure. Their money's in their bank, from the sale of the equity they took out of their home. That couple's from Ohio, and when the right house came along, they were able to offer a lease back to the people who live there, and make it even a more attractive offer because we're comfortable in the Airbnb. We'll stay here an extra month to give your people time to find their next home and get it under contract and then get the deal closed.
Cool.
So I think those are good ways. And then I think that there's also there are companies in Texas, and I'm sure they are in North Carolina too, that are looking at cash buyer programs where you can sell your house fast for cash, and you don't get as much money for it. There's this disadvantage, but it's kind of like those iBuyer programs. They do open up some possibilities as far as that goes.
Yeah, they're here too, and that's why I always tell people get a real estate agent because we will get you top dollar. Don't settle for these other people. So awesome. So next question on the list: closing costs. What are closing costs? How much do they roughly run for a buyer in Texas?
I think they're probably the same as they are there. I mean, you're going to be paying an origination fee to the lender. I do think that's probably the part that you can shop the most is looking. Like a lot of times I'll see local lenders that have a good reputation, the ones we work with regularly, their origination fees will be, $1,000 or less. And then, we'll get like a pre-approval letter from an out-of-state lender, and theirs is twice as much or more. The fees are kind of crazy. So, I think the percentage is probably the same. The only thing that'll really change is whatever the origination fee is with your lender.
Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, here in North Carolina, they're around 4,000 to 7,000. Just depends on the situation and the attorney. But that's roughly what it is. And the bank you use, of course. Are love letters accepted in Texas? This is a big topic.
It depends on the agent, really. I don't know. They don't really bother me. I just think it's real world. Yeah. I know that we always have to think about risk, right? Okay, what's a real risk? There's all kinds of risks. Well, how real is it? I mean, do I really think that my person is going to get sued because they got a love letter and they got a letter from a potential buyer and they chose that person, and then someone else says, well, you didn't choose me because you discriminated against me and didn't choose me because of what my letter said or because I didn't submit a letter. I just think I mean, I'm all for equal housing. I am. I just don't know if that's a real risk. It seems like my sellers they want the top dollar. They're not going to be genuinely not choosing someone because of protected status. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I just don't think that I just don't feel the risk. So
gotcha.
So yeah, I mean, I got the 19 offers that I got the other day. I got 2 love letters. Neither one of them referred to anything that would have been a protected status. So I didn't, it really wasn't an issue. And honestly, those offers weren't the best, and the love letters didn't even make it to the client. They didn't see the letters for the offers that were below asking price.
Are they frowned upon by the commission, or how's
They're
that?
just people say they say just use caution. They're not prohibited.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
just make sure you're not violating any equal housing laws.
Yeah, they're not prohibited here yet, but people do. I mean, they're getting to the point to where agents are starting to say they're prohibited, and then there's just it's getting to this gummy bear, just mixy fruitcake area. I like them, and I'll tell you why, because I've gotten people in, and I don't think it has anything to do with discrimination. I think it has to do with someone actually hearing where the buyer's coming from, and then excuse me. Oh yeah, we got pollen in North Carolina. What's the pollen like out there?
It's awful. This is some people call it spring, some call it the green season.
Because everything's green.
Everything's covered in green haze. Yeah.
You were telling me before the show in the back when we're backstage, you were saying about the pine. You guys have a lot of pine out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, piney woods. It's rolling hills. It's very like when I visited North Carolina. It's pretty similar.
Yeah.
In this part of Texas, it is.
Oh yeah, for me. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's, like you were saying, there's 3 geographical areas in North Carolina. I think in Texas, they say there's 5. It's been a while since I was in that class.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's for those listening, Tyler, Texas is southeast Texas, correct? Towards.
Well, it's south and east of Dallas, but it would still be considered part of northeast Texas. Yeah. And towards Louisiana, we're about 100 miles from Dallas and about 90 miles from the Louisiana border.
Gotcha. Cool. That's fantastic to know. Jonathan, back to the love letters, and we're going to move on. I think they're good because the buyer's going to definitely let you know what he doesn't like about the house. Why can't he tell you what he does like about the house? That's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
Let's see here. What has been your biggest challenge as a real estate agent?
I think everybody's really challenged right now with inventory. When I look back 2 years ago, we were just talking about this yesterday at our staff meeting, our team meeting. For the newer agents, they didn't experience this thing. Like it used to be that you would go and show a house. You'd show 3 or 4 houses, and then you would have several phone calls or emails or text messages afterwards. How did your client like the house? And sometimes those phone calls would be, well, let them know that they're really eager to sell and that we'll accept any offer. I mean, those kinds of phone calls from a listing agent, that was normal, and so they could shop and they could choose the house that they liked the best, and then they could make an offer that was less than an asking price, and we would negotiate back and forth and get it under contract. And then we would negotiate repairs. So this market right now it's so crazy. There's some things that are easier, really. You can't always just be complaining about the hard stuff. Mm-hmm. The things that are easier is like, it used to be hard to get people to not make ridiculously low offers. Sometimes people are like, I want a deal, and and you're like, well, here's the statistics, when we look at it all the time, we used to say, well, homes are selling 3 to 5% off of list price. So if you're going to make a ridiculously low offer, it's probably going to get ignored. I'll do whatever you want, but it's probably going to get ignored. We don't have that conversation anymore. Right. Now the conversation is, Jonathan, how much over asking should we offer? And so that's a totally different conversation. And we used to have to convince people to get pre-qualified with the lender. If they're not buying with cash, we'd have to please, you need to talk to a lender. This is really kind of a waste of our time to be looking at homes. I'll show you 1 or 2, I really want to help you out. But now it's like, nice to meet you. Are you pre-qualified? Okay, yeah. Next.
Yeah. Are you seeing appraisal waivers in your state?
Yes.
You are seeing that?
Yeah. And I don't know what they're like in North Carolina, but there's a lot of agents who don't understand how they work.
They are popular here. And I hate asking this question. So what are you going to do if it don't appraise? That's what I get from the listing agent. Because I'll say, what's important to the seller? I'll get this a lot. Due diligence, and what are you going to do if it don't appraise? And so we get that, and then you as a buyer's agent, you need to have a strategy, and each strategy is different with each buyer, right? Because not everyone has money to bring to the table. Not everyone has. You have to work a strategy like chess. Say, how much can you bring? What is your max? And then present that to the listing agent.
So the appraisal waiver in Texas has three paragraphs. You can choose one of these three options.
Mm-hmm.
The first is that as a buyer, you are waiving the option to walk away from the deal if the purchase doesn't appraise. If it's worded like this, that there's an addendum that goes on a contract if there's a loan associated with it, and that addendum, the third party financing addendum, it says that if you're the purchase is contingent on two factors: the approval of the buyer as a qualified buyer, because they're pre-approved, but they're not, there's a lot more due diligence that goes in from underwriting before they actually are going to release the funds for the loan. So the third party financing addendum says, within a certain number of days, the lender is going to go ahead and approve the buyer. The second condition for the contingency is that the property is approved. And so the property, like the lender wants to make sure it's good collateral. And so that means that it's going to have a good appraisal. That's the primary thing. Other things too, like it needs to be insurable and have clear title. So that's where that comes in. The appraisal waiver says, okay, that contingency on the third party financing addendum, that we would have the ability to get out of this deal if the property doesn't appraise,
Mm-hmm.
then we're going to waive that right. No matter, the first paragraph of this addendum says, we'll waive it no matter what it appraises for. We'll bring whatever cash is necessary in order to close the deal. So that's what you want if you're the listing agent, because that makes your offer really strong. I mean, your buyers are so strong, it doesn't matter. They can come up with whatever additional cash is necessary to meet the appraisal gap. The second paragraph says, instead of that, we don't really have that much cash. We're not really sure. We can meet an appraisal gap that's a certain size. And you put on the form, here's the size gap we can handle. And so as long as it appraises for this much, then we'll go through with it. Otherwise, we will have to go back to the drawing room and renegotiate. And then the third paragraph says, even if it appraises, even if the lender doesn't have a problem with a low appraisal, if they're willing to let us close, even with a low appraisal, we still want the right to terminate. So it's a total reversal of, it's basically giving the buyer more rights.
Yeah.
Anyway, the form is confusing. I'm sure if anybody is listening right now and is going, what in the world? Going back, we keep getting offers with appraisal addendums on them and then having to call the listing agent and said, here's what you said. Is that really what you meant? Because I think you filled the form out wrong.
I'm already confused, I'll be honest with you. If I'm going to buy a house, I'm going to buy it in Texas, I'm going to use Jonathon because he knows what he's talking about.
So it is something, it'd be difficult to do for sale by owner and deal with this stuff, because if you don't do it every day, or if you only do a few deals, a year as an agent that doesn't do a lot, it really helps to be on a team, because you get the benefit of having conversations with other team members and with the team lead to talk about, what are you seeing? What does it take to buy a home right now? What is a winning offer? And, what is that margin above list price, or those kind of conversations are super helpful, especially for me, because my focus on our team has a lot to do with the operations and marketing still, but I do sell houses. And for me to be able to talk about, here's what our team is seeing, I don't have to personally see everything be my deal to be able to have, knowledge about it and what works and what doesn't work.
Right. Yeah. That's pretty fantastic. And what do you think you would say is your biggest success?
Oh, wow.
or a big success. Let's just say that a big success.
Yeah.
Despite taking all those course hours and you know,
I don't know. Did we? I can't remember what we were talking about backstage or we're here actually live, but it's been really fun to see agents win, to have those agents on the team that are successful, and to think, um, we had when we got into it. I know, well, Dee started before me, and she's like, I just hope I can sell enough houses to make at least $10 an hour. Was kind of her thinking, to be just able to have independence and her time and stuff. Well, she doesn't really have much time because she's so successful. It's been fun to just see the progression. I feel like every day I wake up and I just get to play. It's a great job. I love it.
Awesome. And if you had any advice to give new agents, what would that be in Texas?
I think, what we've seen is that it's really difficult to do what Dee did when she started 8 years ago. She had, even though she was an independent agent and she was not on a team, she was in a very small brokerage, and the broker was very distracted at the time. This is a different brokerage.
Mm-hmm.
And so the office manager basically took Dee under her wing and said, hey, the broker's not answering these phone calls of these new leads. Do you want them? So she was giving her leads. Mm-hmm. And then the office assistant was saying, hey, Dee, don't forget your option's almost up on this. Your due diligence period's almost up. Like, she was basically coaching Dee as a new agent. And then Dee was taking everything she could and just working like crazy. So even though Dee wasn't on a team when she started, she basically was getting supported as if she was a team member.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think it's very difficult to find that kind of mentorship. And that's really what I think it takes to succeed. I think you just are going to have a really difficult time being a lone ranger as an agent in Texas. And I think that's probably true everywhere now. It's great to be, to where either you're getting that mentorship from your team members, your teammates, or from some outside person, but just being the person that wakes up every morning. Like, we're in coaching, so we've got that as well. But doing the thing where you just wake up every morning and try to decide what you're going to do today without any outside advice, support, tough.
It's tough. Are you guys oversaturated with agents like we are here?
Say again?
Are you oversaturated with agents as we are here in North Carolina? And like my MLS, we just hit 1,200 homes on the market, right? We just hit 1,200. And it might be different now. I have to go back and check because they sell and they come on as the market's like the stock market. It just goes like this on the MLS.
Mm-hmm.
So you check it. So we're average 1,100 right now, which before it was 1,000. So we went up. But there's like 7.5 realtors. So there's 1,200 homes in my MLS, and 7.5 for realtors, not real estate agents, realtors. Okay, or oversaturated. You got too many people doing this, and I'm not saying that to discourage. I'm not. I wish everyone success.
Yeah,
the low inventory plays a role, right? And so, are you seeing that in Texas? Has that been a challenge for some agents? I mean, because what's happening is the big agent, it's a feast or famine. It's hard to be balanced.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? So when I got in this, it was around 3,000 realtors, 3,500 realtors. It was around 7,000 homes on the market.
Wow.
You could get your people under contract. So.
Yeah, at the end of 2021, I looked at how many homes had sold in our MLS, and I looked at the number of agents. Just did a real simple, how many homes per agent, and it was 2.3.
2.3 homes per agent.
Per agent.
Well, that's fantastic.
For the whole year, to only have sold.
Oh no, that ain't cool. Never mind. I thought that was like, oh no.
Yeah, so I'm like, the average agent in our market, in my market, sells less than 3 homes a year.
Oh no. Go. Hey, go fishing.
Yeah, like half of them didn't sell a single house.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, so we're oversaturated, and I think what happens is that you wind up like I said, you see a lot of deals. Well, when I was going over all these offers, it's just so fresh in my mind because it was just the first of this week. So many of these offers I was looking at going, okay, I'm kind of nitpicky, and I'm just seeing that there's this errors in the contracts. And well, how many deals does this person do? I don't really have time to do it, but I notice you can tell like all the numbers, all the real estate license numbers are consecutive as they're issued. So like my broker has a number that's really small, and on mine, anyway, I was looking at really high numbers on some of these agents who, they're just new, and I want to help. I kind of want to help them, but I'm looking out for my client, not for their client.
Right. I understand. That's when brokers step in. That's why you got to be a good brokerage.
Yeah.
Well, Jonathon, thank you so much for your time today. Everyone listening, Jonathon Martin. Jonathon, if someone wanted to get a hold of you to have inquiries about real estate, buy, sell, talk about investment, how would they do that?
Yeah, well, you can give me a call or you can text me or email me. The phone number is 903-316-6653. And my email address is super long, and good luck spelling it right. It's Jonathon@dmartinrealtygroup.com.
Do you guys have like a landing page for people?
Yeah. You can go to jonathan.dmartinsells.com and find me there.
Yeah. Just repeat that phone number again.
Jonathon, phone number 903-316-6653.
Thank you, Jonathon. Guys, thank you so much. If you have any questions, you can just definitely hit me up at 336-963-3684. And like and share. Jonathon, have a fantastic day. And everyone, have a good evening, and we will talk later. Jonathon, hang around in the break room. I'd like for you to, so we could just talk a little bit about the show afterwards.
Okay, thanks, Paul.
Yep, take care.